All right, so first and foremost, let me give you guys a quick update with this knee. Thought I was doing really good. It's feeling pretty decent. I'm able to kind of limp around on it now with the brace on with no crutches. I'm pretty much got my leg all the way straight, but when I went to physical therapy today, basically they're saying that everything that I'm doing is ahead of schedule. I'm doing better than I should be doing, except with bending my knee. For whatever reason, I can't seem to get my knee to 90 degrees. They said 90 degrees a week after surgery would have been ideal, but sometimes the inflammation kind of stops that. But we're like over 3 weeks out now, and I can't get past 70 degrees. They said I should be at like 110 by now, so I'm kind of sitting here just trying to fucking bend this shit while I record this. But the reason I'm making this video is I wanted to talk about this Tim Tszyu versus Keith Thurman fight. So I'm really torn about this. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, I don't know too much about Tim Tszyu. I know who his dad is. I watched his dad fight plenty of times. So I know I've heard of Tim Tszyu, and I've seen like some highlights and shit. I never really sat down and watched a full Tim Tszyu fight, so I'm gonna have to do that. But I wanted to get this video done, and I don't really mind making these videos when I don't know too much about these guys. I'll just tell you, like, I don't really know an overabundance about this guy. I know what I've seen, I know what I think, yada yada. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Unless there's something I'm missing that, from what I've seen of Tim Tszyu so far and what I've heard about Tim Tszyu, I've watched interviews with people that have sparred Tim Tszyu and Keith Thurman. I've watched, interviews with people that have fought one or fought the other or whatever the case is. So I've done a decent amount of looking into this fight, just not too much on watching Tim Tszyu fight. Now, again, I've seen Tim Tszyu fight. I don't think that Tim Tszyu is like unbeatable or anything. I think he's good, but to me, this fight really just boils down to one simple thing, to be quite honest with you, and that's Keith Thurman, right? Like, Keith Thurman used to be one of my favorite fighters, going back to, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. I don't really know exactly what the years were, but I remember being at the Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter fight. I've been at other Keith Thurman fights and shit. Thurman was one of my favorite fighters when he was coming up. My favorite guys, I liked Spence, I liked Thurman, I liked Porter, shit like that. As time went on, I started to grow pretty fond of Bud. I mean, we're talking about years ago. This is way before Bud and Spence fought or anything like that. I started to not really like what was going on. And this is not to say that I dislike Keith Thurman, but I just started to not really like what was going on with Keith Thurman around when he started taking these layoffs and shit. Like, he had the elbow injury and he got married. Listen, I'm not trying to knock Keith Thurman at all. You hear it in Rocky 3, right? The worst thing that could ever happen to a fighter happened to you. You became civilized. You became a normal person. You can't really be like a normal person and box for a living, because once you turn normal and your jaw gets broken or your orbital bone gets broken, you're going to do the normal thing and you'd be like, yo, my shit is broken, I got to stop, right? But abnormal people that fight through this shit, these are the people that make a difference. These are the people that do things that most normal people are not capable of doing. So I'm not saying that this happened to Thurman, but the point that I'm trying to make is, when you have an injury and you're out for a long time and you get married and you're on a honeymoon and life is great and you're enjoying life, and then you come back, you get this fight that you've been looking for. First of all, when he came back and he fought Josecito Lopez, again, I'm not trying to take nothing away from Josecito Lopez, but I think we can all agree that Josecito Lopez is not on the same level as Keith Thurman. At least not when Keith Thurman was beating Sean Porter and beating all these guys and shit like that. I think that had it not been for the injury and the layoff, that we would have just assumed, and maybe some of us still did, that Keith Thurman was going to walk right through Josecito Lopez. Now, Josecito Lopez is a tough dude, bro. So I don't want to make it sound like I thought Thurman was going to go out there, hit him once, and the fight was going to be over. I know that dude ain't rolling over for nobody. I get that. But I just thought it would be more of a one-sided fight, and not only was it not a one-sided fight, but Keith Thurman almost got stopped in that fight. Again, you could point to so many things. You could point to Josecito Lopez's relentlessness. You could point to a lucky shot. You could point to the injury. You could point to the 2-year or whatever it was layoff. You could point to becoming civilized and being more of a normal human being now and shit. So, he wound up getting the win. So it's not really something that, like, derailed his career. But I think at that point we all were like, whoa, okay, hold on. Like, if a guy of that caliber could do that to Keith Thurman, then I think we know what's probably going to happen when he fights a dude of a higher caliber, right? He had been calling Manny Pacquiao out for a lot. You know, he called out Pacquiao and Floyd from the beginning of his career, which I'm not trying to hate on the guy. I'm just saying, you know, you're calling for this fight. And then you finally get it, and not only do you finally get it, but you get it at a time where Manny Pacquiao is close to the end of his career. I mean, Pacquiao was like almost 40 years old in that fight, if I remember correctly. So it's like, all right, you got what you're looking for, and you know, you might not have got it exactly in your prime, but Manny's nowhere near his prime either. So, you know, it seemed like he got it at more of an ideal time than not. And I'm not going to lie to you, I really, and again, I'll give Pacquiao all the credit in the world. He's one of the greatest boxers of all time, but I don't really like Pacquiao. So this is not me being hurt about Pacquiao, what I'm about to tell you, but, you know, I just didn't like the way that Keith Thurman acted in the build-up to that fight. I thought that he did a lot of out-of-character things and stooped to levels where it was like, not only do I not really understand why you're doing this, I especially don't understand why you're doing it to a legend like Manny, a veteran that's, you know, I mean, if there's anybody that you're going to fight that you're not going to disrespect, it would probably be Pacquiao for 2 reasons. Number one, the guy's accomplishments are out of this world and probably will never be broken. Number two, Manny don't do nothing to nobody. Manny don't talk shit to people. Manny don't leak videos. Manny don't put out rumors about people. You know what I'm saying? So it was very odd for me for that to be the time that Keith Thurman decided to get out of character. T-Rex arms, and I just didn't really like it. I'm all for shit talking. I'm all for respect and being quiet. I'm cool with whatever. But to just pick a humble legend like Manny to start throwing insults like that at, and you know what? If Thurman would have won the fight, I probably would have had less to say about it, because I would have been like, wow. Like, he showed no respect for Manny. He just came in, straight disrespected him verbally, and then got in the ring and just fucked him up. And like, wow, I didn't see that coming, right? But then you get in the ring and you lose. Like, you're talking about T-Rex arms, you're talking about this dude being past his prime, all this type of shit, and then he fucked you up. Again, wasn't a destruction. It was a close competitive fight. Manny definitely won. Dropped him. So I just feel like ever since the elbow injury, ever since the marriage, ever since the honeymoon, ever since the Pacquiao fight, all this type of stuff, it's just been this slow downward thing with Keith Thurman for me. And again, I don't hate him, but I certainly am not a fan of him the way that I used to be. I feel like a lot of the things that he says are like, he's like trying to be like Muhammad Ali, or trying to be, but it's like, but you're not, you know. And I'm not trying to be a dick, because I used to be a big fan of you, but you're not that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you would have won these fights, you still wouldn't have been Muhammad Ali. So like, I don't know. It's just strange. He was doing it again in the Zoo press conference, and saying with and I'm like, I just don't like the way that he's acting. Now, all that personality shit being out of the way, again, I'm going to say this again, I really do think that this fight comes down to one simple thing, where Keith Thurman is at right now in his career. So we got the elbow injury, the marriage, the honeymoon, the layoff, the shaky fight against Josecito Lopez. He beat Mario Barrios. I'm not trying to take nothing away from that, because Mario Barrios looked great in the fight after that. If I'm remembering correctly, by the way. But I just think there's been a lot of things that are are kind of pointing towards like, all right, I don't like the direction this is going in. I think if things are still going in that direction, it could be a bad night for Keith Thurman. I think if the Keith Thurman, and I don't know if this Keith Thurman exists anymore, but I'm just saying, I think if the Keith Thurman that beat, Sean Porter, some guys like that, excuse me for drawing a blank right now, but I think if that Keith Thurman shows up, again, my knowledge on Zoo is limited, but I think Keith Thurman could win that fight. Now, I don't know if he does, but I was looking at the odds the other day. Keith Thurman is over 5-1. I threw $10 on Keith Thurman to win like $60 or whatever it is. It was something like that. To me, that's an easy bet, bro. Like, if I lose that bet, I don't fucking give a shit that I lost $10. If I win that bet and I win $60 or whatever it is, it ain't gonna make me rich. It ain't gonna really do nothing for me. But I'll take the easy $60 with a very low risk. So, to me, if I was you guys, if you're looking to bet, I would bet on Thurman because those odds are crazy. Now, if an injured elbow and a married, calm down, civilized, too long of a layoff Keith Thurman shows up, I'm not even sure that Tim Tszyu has much to do with it, right? I mean, Josecito Lopez almost beat him. So I just feel like if the old Keith Thurman shows up, we could be looking at a Keith Thurman win. But I think the odds of the old Keith Thurman showing up are probably slim to none. I'll tell you the things that really worry me in this fight as far as Keith Thurman is concerned. I've seen Tim Tszyu drop people with body shots. I know for sure that Keith Thurman does not take body shots well. I mean, the same goes the other way, right? Like, I think a lot of what Tim Tszyu has said in this build-up has been really retarded and terrible, too. He's talking about how he doesn't look to outpoints people. He looks to knock people out. Thurman's a points guy. Thurman's nickname is one time, bro, because he hits you one time and you're out. I understand that his knockout rate has gone down in the past couple of years or so, but, I mean, to turn around and just dismiss Thurman as a points guy that's not a hard hitter, I don't really understand that. I think that's kind of stupid. I don't even really know where that came from. So, I don't know. Maybe Tszyu is not really aware of, like, who Thurman is or what he does or what his game plans are or whatever. I've seen Tszyu get a little wild. I've seen him put his feet in bad positions. I've seen him leave himself open when he's throwing punches. So, I do think that Thurman is a live dog in this fight, but only if it's the regular Keith Thurman. If we get in this watered-down, half-injured, long layoff, civilized Keith Thurman, I don't really think I'm going to pick Keith Thurman to beat too many people, regardless of whether it's Tim Tszyu or somebody else. So, again, my apologies for not having a giant tactical breakdown in this fight, as I'm not really overly informed on Tim Tszyu, but I felt like I did have a decent amount to say as far as Keith Thurman as a whole is concerned, and as far as the things that I've been seeing other fighters say and the things that I've seen in Tim Tszyu highlights and like the things that I have watched. I don't know. I mean, 5.5-1 sounds a little bit crazy to me. That's why I threw money on Thurman. I'm that type of person where if I think person A is going to win, but it's going to be really close, and person B is like a 4-1 underdog, I'm going to take that, bro, all the time. I only got to hit 1 out of 4 of those to even out. You know what I'm saying? If I hit 2 of those and I lose 2 of those, I'm always going to be up. So, I don't know, man. I'm a little torn on this one because I don't have a shit ton of information on Tim Tszyu. At the end of the day, I probably think Tim Tszyu is going to win, and that's based off me just, picking like a changing of the guard type of thing. I mean, we're in 2024. Keith Thurman's getting up there in age. All the other intangible things that I just named to you. Tim Tszyu on the rise and stuff like that. So, listen, Thurman's a hard puncher. He's got experience. I've seen Tszyu be dropped. I've seen Tszyu make mistakes. So, again, if the right Thurman shows up, I could see Thurman winning this fight. I think at the end of the day, Tszyu's going to probably stop him late with a body shot. And that's just coming off of me kind of mixing all these things together, not really based so much off of what I've seen Tim Tszyu do. So, I don't know. I guess take what I said with a grain of salt because, you know, I feel like I have two totally different perspectives, and I'm not going to know. We're going to know quick, right? Like, when that fight starts, we're going to know if it's the old Keith Thurman or the fucked up Keith Thurman. Like, the old Keith Thurman from the earlier, you know, 2010 to 15, or the old Keith Thurman as in the 35, 40-year-old Keith Thurman. And we'll probably know relatively quickly. So, I don't know, man. I guess we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go Tim Tszyu by stoppage on this one. Peace.